In this video, we're going to explore the use of the coordinates bar. So this is where you would be able to enter values, very specific values, to drive your geometry. It's normally placed at the top of the screen. You can grab hold of it and maneuver it to a new location. I'm going to place it here just to make it a little bit easier to see. And I'm simply going to select a line color, say blue, and draw some freehand lines. So normally with a mouse, I've got the grid switched on and the snap switched on, so it's going to lock itself to grid positions. So, not hard to draw once the grid is on. Right click to finish here. But what if I wanted to draw specific values? I might start a new line here, and I wish to go to the right. So I press X on the keyboard because I wish to travel in the X direction. And you can see that's the X direction. So I'm going to travel in the X direction. I'm going to type in a value of, say, 3,500. I'm going to press Enter on the keyboard, and I know now that that has moved 3,500 in the right hand, or to the right. If I wish to go up the screen, I'd press Y on the keyboard, and again, enter in a positive number, say 2,250 millimeters, and again, press Enter on the keyboard, and now I know that I've gone 2,250, and if I wish to come to the left, it doesn't matter where I have my line sitting. I can leave it to the right, let go of the mouse, press X on the keyboard. Now type in a minus number. So I've pressed minus. I'm going to put in, say, 4,500 and press Enter. And my line is drawn. And if I now wish to go down the screen, I would press Y. And again, a minus number will send me downwards. And I'll put in 3,000 and press Enter. And as I move my mouse, you will see the line has actually moved down to that location, basically following the entries that I'm making. I can also use both at the same time. So if I want an angled line, I could type in X as, say, 1,000 and press Y and type in 1,000 and press Enter. And I've moved my cursor to the right and up the screen by 1,000. So that's 1,000 and that's 1,000. Right click to end. That's the use of the X and the Y. And you will notice the letter I is next to each of these, which basically is indicating to you that we are in incremental coordinates, that we are drawing relative to the last point you drew. So we started here and we put in a value relative to this point and we traveled in this direction. And then the next value was relative to this last point and it went up here. And the next value was relative to this last point and it went across, and so on. If, however, you want everything to be relative to an absolute zero, which is this point right here in the middle of your screen where the work plane sits, okay, then you can substitute the I by actually pressing M on the keyboard. Now, M puts you into what are called model coordinates. So we're now relative to this 0 point. So if I start drawing a line, and I'll draw one just out here, okay, and I now press X, you'll notice it automatically jumps back to the letter I, but I now want to tell it I want model coordinates. So I've pressed the letter M on my keyboard. And if I press Enter now, this line will get drawn to this location. Watch what happens when I press Enter. There it is. So that's model coordinates 0, 0. I'm going to right click to finish. If I draw something, say, here, and I want the end of this line to end up being, say, in this location, or so many meters away from it, or roughly, from there, again, I could say I want it to end up in the X location, but M for model units, and I want to type in the value away from 0. So the value away from 0, I'll put in there 1,000, and I press Enter on the keyboard, and I've located a point that is 1,000 away from 0. As you can see, that's 1,000. So that is the use of model coordinates, okay? You can individually switch coordinates from incremental to model by, once it's highlighted. So if I went to X, for instance, When I press the I key, it toggles between model coordinates and incremental. Whereas the Y one on the right there, nothing's happening to it. So the M key is designed to switch all three items, so X, Y, and Z, from model to incremental. The I key only switches the current coordinate from incremental to model. Most people will continue to use incremental because they are normally measuring or referencing another point that they've already drawn. What, however, would you do if you needed to draw lines that had an angle? Well, that's pretty simple. Let's start our new line here. I'm going to press A on the keyboard, and you will notice that the Y field has changed to an A for angle field. And this is where I can type in a value. So I might type in 10 for 10 degrees. And I'm also need it to be a specific distance. So I'm going to press D on the keyboard and it'll jump me to the distance. And again, I'll make this 2 meters. And when I press enter, it will be drawing a line that's 2 meters long at an angle of 10 degrees. And you'll see where 10 degrees sits. Okay, so relative to this point here, 10 degrees is anti-clockwise or counterclockwise if you're in the US. Okay, relative to the horizontal. So horizontal is 0 degrees. So if I, for instance, said my angle now needs to be 0 degrees, but my distance needs to be 1000, you'll see a horizontal line will appear when I press enter. If I wanted to go clockwise, I could hit A for angle and then put minus 10 for the angle, and I would go for D for distance, 2000, and press enter. And I've now got an angled line. Okay, going in here. I've pressed enter twice, clearly. I'll just undo that. So I've got an angled line that relative to the horizontal is going clockwise. So that's the idea behind the concept of distance and angle. Now, if I wanted to draw lines that were based on mapping coordinates, then I would press B on my keyboard when I was drawing. So I'll start here, and I'm going to press B on my keyboard for bearing. And I can enter in a value for that bearing. So it might be something like, let's put in here, we want 85 degrees, and I use the hash key for the degrees. It's going to be 15 minutes, which is the single apostrophe, and then it's going to be 25 seconds. I don't have to put in the double quotation mark, but if I do, it definitely recognizes it as seconds. And then I'll go L for length, and I'll type in the length for this. This might be 20,000 for 20 meters. And once I press enter, I've got a line that I know is 85 degrees, 15 minutes and 25 seconds by 20 meters long. Let's zoom out and you'll see that that's what I've drawn. So you can see there are multiple ways to actually draw what you need. And let's just double check what we've done there. We'll actually do a measurement on that. Okay, and there you've got it. So that's 85 degrees, 15 and 25 minutes. One of the more popular ways to draw using the program is to use a direct entry. So essentially, I'm going to just zoom in a little bit here, out of the way for the other one. I'm going to click anywhere on the screen, and I'm going to press the / key on my keyboard. All right, now the / key takes me to an area here, okay? And I'm going to type in a value that represents the length of the line that I wish it to be. So I say I want a length of line that's 1200. And as I move my mouse, my line is going to stay at 1200 no matter what I do. Okay, it's locked into that 1200. So I could move my mouse over here and click, but still know that my line is 1200 long. So you can see that this is a very useful tool. Might just switch off the grid snapping. Okay, we'll just maybe switch off the display as well. Makes it a little bit smoother. So you can see that that's there. Now the next line might be, and also I'll use the / key, type in 1000, okay? And it changes as I'm typing. So if I add another 0 whilst I'm typing, I now know I've got a longer line. I'll zoom out. You'll see I've got a longer line, okay? If I remove a 0, I've got a shorter line. If I remove it again, I've got a very short line because only 100 long, and one more, and now 10 long, okay? So I just put in 45, okay, and that's how long this particular line is. And if I hold down the Shift key, then I am also benefiting from not only the length, but I'm benefiting from knowing that I'm locked into a multiple of whatever angle I've got preset in my default settings here. So in this case, my auto shift snap angle, okay, is multiples of 15 degrees. So that can be a very useful methodology to work with. So let's do that again. Start a line, start a point where you wish it to begin, and notice it's not going where I expect it to go, and that's because I've still got this locked in, and it's locked in at 0 length. So what I need to do is unlock that, okay, so that I have freedom of movement, and then type in a value that I really want it to be if I want it to start from here. If I wanted it to start from here, I'd have to right-click to finish, start my line here, and then press the / and enter in a value of, say, 800, okay, and then I'm drawing again the way I was before. Click a position. The same is true for any of the dialogue. So if I'm drawing a line and I wish the angle to be multiples, I press A for angle, okay, type in the angle multiple, I might say 5 degrees, and lock it, okay, so that no matter where I move, the angle's always going to be a multiple of that. The distance here is 800, okay, and I could lock that as well, all right? So when it's asking me for the start of the line, so I'll just click a point, and then you can see here, it's 800 long, and as I'm moving, you'll see it's moving in 5-degree increments. So this too is another useful way to be able to draw things, especially things that you know are preset angles. So if I uncheck that, okay, I can draw at any length because I'm not restricted. So the unlocking gives me any distance, okay? But the locking of the angle, I know that what I'm drawing, where I'm drawing, is always a multiple of 5. Because that's what I've got set. If that was set to 90, then I'd only be able to draw vertical or horizontal lines. I wouldn't have a choice. No matter where I move my mouse, it would lock me into that. And this is all without using the Shift key. Okay, so this is just a mechanism that you can use, and different people enjoy different ways of drawing with the software. There's not always a right or wrong way to do any of these. Something else to mention whilst you're using these commands is that you are able to also use for locking and unlocking the padlocks is literally just the letter P. So pressing the letter P will lock or unlock. So if we go into the X, Y, and Zs, again, because this one is highlighted, if I press P on that one, it will lock. If I go to the Y and press P, it will lock. Press it again, and it will unlock. So utilize the letter P as a slight shortcut for placing the padlock into a locked or unlocked state.